Are you having digestive problems, bloating, stomach cramps, gas? Then this may be for you. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show, where we help people find answers who have chronic health conditions, chronic health problems. And today we want to talk about SIBO. If you've ever heard of SIBO, you probably already know what this is about to a degree, maybe not. SIBO, what does that mean? SIBO, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. What is this all about? How does it happen? SIBO has actually it's become kind of a buzzword that you'll hear more too about from patients, doctors, um, different sources. So how does this all, what is SIBO and what does it have to do with? So let's dive right in with this. In fact, let's make that a little bigger. All right. So what can SIBO do? How do you know you may have SIBO? Well, you could have this loss of appetite. Maybe you're craving sugars a lot, stomach pain, nausea, bloating, just that full feeling, uncomfortable fullness. It's like I only ate a little bit and I feel so full already. Diarrhea, constipation, malnutrition can occur. That's more of an effect. And then gas and belching, and it's like, oh, my guts are a wreck. What's going on with me? Well, when we look at the digestive tract, here's what actually happens in SIBO. Let's see here if we can kind of draw this in. Okay, so this area right here, this is your, if you can see where I'm drawing here, this is your large intestine. I'll just write LI. And then in here, all this stuff is your small intestine. All right. So there are certain bacteria that live in the large intestine that do not belong in the small intestine. So these bacteria, they're important. They help with digestive processes. They're scavengers. We actually kind of need them. I mean, there's some bad guys in there too, especially if you have a lot of gut issues. You probably have some bad bacteria in there that shouldn't be in there. But one of the the theories on this, or the possibilities, well, let's put it this way. If you start to get the large intestinal bacteria into the small intestine, that's not good. The small intestine is where you absorb your nutrients, your food. Yeah, there's an immune system in there too, but it's pretty darn important that absorption is working properly. So if you get these foreign bacteria in there, that's going to cause a lot of inflammation and a lot of problems, and even reactions to food. Now, how do those bacteria get into the wrong home? How do they get to the wrong place? Well, let's kind of mark this here. If you can see where I'm marking, this is an area called your, I'm just going to write IC valve, ileocecal valve. There's actually a valve there that opens and closes like a little flap. And that valve is important to prevent things from going backward. Once you get it through the small intestine, it goes into the large intestine. We don't want it coming back. That's all the waste product. You've already digested everything from this food. Now it'll go into the real sewer system, which is your large intestine, so it can eventually get the water absorbed out of it and go into the toilet. So if this valve is having problems, yeah, it's going to back up into the large intestine. Now you got to think about it. It's not just a valve that just freely opens. No, this is controlled by muscles that help to contract this valve and close it and open it, or keep it closed. And then also the whole bowel, this valve, the bowels around it, small intestine, large intestine, controlled by nerves from your brain, influenced by other factors. So this can definitely be an issue. Now, here's the thing: is if you start to get these incorrect bacteria in your small intestine, like I was saying, it'll cause inflammation, gases, not a good thing. And definitely these types of symptoms, because really in our intestines, our nervous system is different there. The way we feel things is different. When things pass through your bowels, you don't feel every food traveling through your bowels. That would probably be a horrible feeling. You wouldn't want to feel that every day or every time you eat. What our bowels are sensitive to is pressure changes. So if something causes our bowels to have to expand more than they should, yikes, that's painful. That can cause cramps. And especially if gas expands your bowel, yeah, not good. And you'll definitely feel it. So how do they usually test for this? If you went to just your traditional doctor, what are they going to look at when they think you might have SIBO, if they even get that far or even look at it as a possibility? Well, what they're going to do is run what's called they're going to test some sugars. They're going to have you drink this sugary drink, and the sugars are called lactulose and glucose. And what's going to happen is when these sugars hit your gut, if these incorrect bacteria, these bad bacteria from your small intestine, if they're in your small intestine, if they're in your, which live in your large intestine, but if they get into your small intestine and that sugar hits them, they go, hooray. And the thing is they start to eat up that sugar and it starts to cause fermentation. They start to ferment that sugar. And when you ferment it, what's going to happen? You cause gases to expand, to be created. Now, what typically will happen is you'll create carbon dioxide, which is gas, methane gas, hydrogen gas. These are the main gases that are created in this fermentation process. So they're going to actually, what they'll have you do is they'll have you breathe into this thing, and then it's going to test, hey, which gas are we breathing out here? So if you breathe an excessive amount of hydrogen gas or an excessive amount of methane gas, they'll say, hey, you have SIBO. You're making the wrong kind of gases, and your small intestine shouldn't produce these gases at this volume, especially. So the thing is many times they'll try to tag hydrogen gas to diarrhea, methane gas to constipation. Doesn't have to be that way. It actually, a person could have hydrogen gas and have both, methane gas and have both. It could be the opposite. But they say that these are sometimes the commonalities: hydrogen, diarrhea, methane with constipation. But very interesting. So then if they saw this, the typical treatment is an antibiotic called rifampicin. Now, this rifampicin is given, and it's given for about 2 to 3 weeks. And the price tag on rifampicin is about $1,500, which is not cheap. And considering you have to take it for 2 to 3 weeks, and then I have not seen one patient yet that their primary care physician or their conventional doctor has given them any dietary recommendations at all. Usually they'll come in and say, yeah, they didn't say anything about diet. They just said, take that antibiotic and it'll clear up. Well, the problem is yeah, it may clear up temporarily, but this is a recurrent problem because you didn't get rid of the cause. So then you may say, hey, I took it, I felt better. Maybe a month later, oh, it's back again. Oh, I got to go back on the rifampicin, another $1,500. You can say, oh, no big deal, my insurance will pay for it. Well, maybe. And if it doesn't, you might have a high deductible. You might end up paying the full amount. I'm not going to get into that, but definitely this is not an answer to the problem. Now, also, you'll leave usually with a diagnosis of either IBS, colitis, irritable bowel disorder, which are all general diagnoses. These don't tell you the cause of anything. These are just labels that are saying, hey, irritable bowel syndrome. You've got a set of symptoms that says your bowel's irritated. Well, what's irritating the bowel? Irritable bowel disorder. What is causing the irritable bowel? These don't describe any cause. They're just a group of symptoms. And then colitis, that's called inflammation of the large intestine. What's causing the inflammation? These diagnoses are just so they can look in a textbook and say, okay, here's the drug of choice for this. Here you go. This again, they don't get to cause it all. Very, very frustrating. So how do we maybe look at this and some things that you could do at home if you have this type of issue? Number one, you got to change your diet initially. This may not be a long-term change if you kind of listen to what I'm telling you. So The diet that's most common for SIBO is called a FODMAP diet, FODMAP. You can look that up if you want and get the full description on it. But what it is you're decreasing foods that increase fermentation. And so you're decreasing the carbs, which are grains usually. You're decreasing sugars, fermented foods, alcohol, which doesn't digest well, starchy veggies, legumes, artificial sweeteners, dairy. All these things can increase fermentation in your gut. Even though some of them, like certain starchy veggies, can be really healthy for you, certain foods here can be very healthy for you. Doesn't matter, they increase fermentation. So this isn't a long-term diet. This isn't something you want to do for a long time. It's more of a just to try to get that fermentation down, decrease some symptoms initially while you're getting rid of these bacteria. Now, to get rid of the bacteria, you can look these up online, but there are definitely like oil of oregano. There's different herbal compounds where they put herbs together and these herbs are more of like a natural type antibiotic that kill these bacteria. I found too that, some people say, oh, every time I've had a flare up, I'll use the same herb. And then it doesn't work as good as it used to when I first did it. Well, you've got to rotate these because just like an antibiotic, bacteria can adapt to that. They can also adapt to herbs. So you want a rotation of these herbs. So you may want to rotate it while you're going through it, or you may want to rotate it with each flare up or event that you have. So then the key is, okay, we don't want it continuously flaring up. We don't want to have to go through this on a regular basis. I mean, all this is definitely a lot less expensive than rifampicin, but at the same time, we've got to look at cause. How can we support or deal with cause? So if you have this valve issue, this is usually caused by something going on in the large intestine that's affecting that valve, inflaming it, or causing maybe even the small intestine inflaming it, or a certain amount of gases from fermentation, even in the large intestine. There's different factors, or even the nerves being affected that go to the gut that could be a factor here. Nerves that go to the valve or the surrounding muscles, the smooth muscles that affect that valve. So there's a lot of different things. So one thing we'll see with some people who have this is they'll have high stress in their life. So you may have to take care of some stress because stress will lower your immune system and allow certain bad things to happen to your body. Then the other thing we'll see is usually we'll see other infections. We may see Candida issues. We may see parasitic issues. We may see other bacteria that are causing problems in the gut. Usually when these problems are going on, they'll just say, oh, you have SIBO, here you go, that's it. No, that's like, hey, I'm looking for one cause for this whole problem. Very rare. There's usually multiple things that are tied into this. It's rarely just get rid of the bacteria, somehow amazingly the gut heals. Now, I do have those cases. I do have cases where the patient just changes their diet, do a round of maybe some herbs or something else to get rid of the bacteria, and kabam, they're like, hey, that changed it all. I'm good. I'm done, and haven't had a flare up since. So, great. But the main people that I'm seeing are the people who that maybe helped, but it just kept coming back. So then we've got to look for underlying causative agents. The other one could be chemicals. We are exposed to so many chemicals in our lifetime, different chemicals, different things, solvents, PCBs, phthalates. Just so many different chemicals, herbicides, pesticides. All these things can also disrupt our endocrine system, disrupt our nervous system, disrupt our immune system, and create all kinds of troubles. Heavy metals, we can be born with these, but also they can come in through foods, different things we're exposed to. These can also disrupt our nervous system, disrupt our gut, definitely compromise and disrupt our immune system. And then also if there's more of a neurological issue occurring, that maybe you need some type of stimulation to that area. This is where you can actually go online and they'll have some videos and they'll show you how do you maybe massage that ileocecal valve. There's also ways to treat that ileocecal valve in a conservative way too. But there's different things that can be done to help on this front and get some result. But so back to SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Rarely do I see it as a standalone, hey, this is your diagnosis, this is your thing, you're done. It's rarely that. It's usually other things going on that are invested in the same problem. And yeah, maybe small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, but the bacteria, they're, like I said, they're usually not the only part of your problem, or otherwise everybody would have this. The thing is we've got to really look at the immune system. What's compromising your immune system? Why isn't your immune system stepping up to the plate and dealing with these bacteria on its own? Because the immune system in our gut is about 75% of our immune system. Is pretty strong. It shouldn't really have a problem dealing with this. So this already tells us that your immune system was compromised, unless it was just a one-time event, large amount, and maybe you knew what it was, some stress, diet was off for a while. You change it all and you're good. All right. Well, hopefully that gave everybody some great information on SIBO. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day, and God bless. And I will see you on the next video. And please hit subscribe if you get a chance. All right. God bless.